throw it open to the floor if anyone has any questions for our panellists. None of them can tell you what's going to happen with Brexit, but they can give you some good tips on how to prepare. Yeah, there's a gentleman here on this side halfway up. Should we get you a mic now? It's just on the way, yeah.
Thanks very much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge today, so it's appreciated. What do we know about the preparedness of the customs clearance agents, both sides of in the UK and in Ireland, and general capacity? Because there's going to be a significant increase in the volume of administration between the two, and yeah, it's going to be, as you've said, like nothing we've seen before. So what do we know about the preparedness both here and in the UK? That would be one of our key concerns, and within the agencies themselves.
Yeah, it sounds as if the number of points you'll have to get in your leaving cert to become a customs clearance agent is going to go up. Can anyone give us some insight as to the numbers of clearance agents there were? John, you said you remembered years ago dealing with customs and there would have been agents. I remember there were large companies in Dundalk. What is the capacity of that business now? Celine?
It's a concern that we in revenue share there isn't sufficient capacity currently, but then there isn't sufficient capacity in a lot of areas at the moment. And again, that's where we're saying it's that chicken and egg situation. Nobody wants to invest heavily now in taking on additional resources or training up additional staff, because the feeling still at the moment is we've had 2 deadlines that passed and that nothing happened, and if they had been carrying that additional overhead, that's money that's lost directly out of their pocket. So it's something that we are concerned about. It's something, I mentioned the Customs Consultative Committee. We had a specific agenda on that about 2 weeks ago, just on the capacity in the market, and we were happy to be joined by representatives from the Department of Business, from the Department of Social Protection and a few others to hear those concerns firsthand. And I think there will be something put in place fairly quickly to help with that.
Would you have any sense, Celine, maybe from the other side of the fence dealing with these companies and agencies, how long does it take to train up a person to work for a company like that? There is clearly a level of expertise involved. Is it very complicated? How quickly could those companies respond?
Yeah, it's not there's no one size fits all, because I suppose it depends on the type of products that you're moving. If you're moving the same product repeatedly, the customs declaration becomes quite easy, because it's all the same information, maybe bar 1 or 2 fields that will change, the weight or the date and the quantities. If you're getting into a declaration that has multiple line items, multiple different products, then that's more difficult. So the sense from that meeting was that they could probably get some staff trained up in it. If they started now, they could have some trained up for an October deadline, but to become a specialist in that area could take up to 2 years.
And any idea what's happening in the UK with your counterparts? Any?
No, but I mean, I suppose
You haven't met them at a few conferences or anything like that?
It's very similar.
Yes, Rowan, yeah.
Just I suppose to add, I mean, back in February, March, a lot of businesses were being told, I suppose by revenue and on the other side by HMRC, to find a customs agent. And literally, I saw emails saying, look, we're 10 times oversubscribed, we just can't take a business. So if you're somebody who's already trading with third countries, if you're importing goods from China or sending shipments to the States, you know, you're in a good position because you already have the relationship. For other companies, it just wasn't possible. Speaking to customs clearance agents themselves, most were reluctant to ramp up because there was the fear, look, what if Brexit doesn't happen? You know, and in the event it was postponed, you know. So even within companies themselves, there's a lack of capability, you know. So I think going forward, there will be a need for training. There is the possibility as well, as Celine mentioned earlier, for companies to handle this administration in-house, and there's more focus now coming, I think, on that. There are software providers who will license software to you. They'll do an element of training in-house, but it's really just in how to use the system as opposed to the broader customer procedures.
We regularly engage Investment in Ireland here this morning, and with Scottish Enterprise and our equivalents in the UK as well. So listen, stage number 1 is engage with your customers and your suppliers over there. Like, ask them these questions: how prepared are you? And are you engaging with your own customs officials? And we have HMRC coming over in August to do a workshop with us on this. But there's a whole bunch of companies. Are you a freight forwarder or a logistics company or a
No, I'm
trading company?
advising businesses
Okay.
on preparing, but I suppose the volume of businesses that are out there, small
Yeah.
micro operators, I just see the significant ramp up in administration requirements to get their products in and out of the UK.
And I just have a big concern that the capacity just isn't going to be there.
So the logistics companies, the freight forwarders, there's training there for them that they can go out. IIFA, if you're speaking to any of your companies, IIFA, run a training course on how to do this stuff. And you won't become an expert. Like it takes a number of, I would say, months or years to become an expert in this, but they can get up. And we just in the last 2 months, we've had a whole bunch, 35, 38 companies who've said, you know, we don't trust the market here, and they're training up. There's a difference in customs awareness and online training and that, and actually having the capability to fill the forms in and do those customs declarations yourselves. So it's not a big number, but about 38 of our companies would have now trained up, bought in the IT, and are now prepared to do those customs declarations and procedures in-house. And that's what we were saying earlier. Don't leave this as a guessing game. Take those actions that you need to do. So if you want, we can talk to you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. We have a question here at the front.
Thank you. Finbar Daly from Enterprise in Monaghan. Today's discussion focused very much on the implications of goods in and out between the UK and the EU. What are the implications for service sector companies who are trading on both sides of the border, and which are essentially part of the single market post-Brexit?
Anyone want to take that?
Well,
Celine from Revenue.
none of us are service experts, unfortunately. I suppose most of the focus is on the goods movement because that's the majority of what we're dealing with. But there are implications in terms of market access, and there are implications in terms of VAT. So it really depends on the type of service. It's an extremely complex area, so it depends on the specific service, and then some are exempt from VAT, but there are rates up to 13.5%. So what I'd suggest is if you talk to the colleagues on our stand and give them the specifics of your scenario, and we can come back to you with a focused response, I suppose.
Okay. Yes,
If you're in services so broad, it doesn't cover customs or tariffs, doesn't apply to services, even IT or software. But if you're in a regulated service area, then obviously you would have real concerns. So that might be in financial services perhaps, or in auditing. We'll deal with that at the very end. So you've got to look at that. Richard asked what would be the one thing you do immediately. You know, something like the scorecard, the Brexit scorecard covers about 6-9 areas, and movement of people is a real concern. We've all kind of kidding ourselves. We've all reassured ourselves that the common travel arrangement will mean that it's fine for us travelling. But in the services businesses, some of the ones we're working with will have non-EU nationals, non-Irish UK nationals here who are EU nationals who are working in the services, travelling back and forward to the UK. So there's across those 9 different areas, as any business, whether you're services or not, and then particularly in regulated areas, you need to get proper advice on it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other questions? We have one over on this side. Yep.
Hi, I have a question for Celine. If a customer wants to send back product from the UK, do we have to pay an import duty to take it back because it's our product originally? And if so, is there any relief we can claim against that?
There is a thing called re-export and re-import, and it depends. So this is one of the scenarios that Michael on the end was mentioning around Brexit date are going to get tricky in the event of no deal. So if you've sent the goods pre-Brexit and you want to bring them back post-Brexit, there could be a question of paying import duties on something that is an EU product that had been sent. So what I'd suggest in those scenarios is the Commission have published a lot of really detailed stakeholder notices on their website, the europa.eu website, and it deals with those kind of really tricky scenarios around Brexit date. But the best advice we could give you is to hang on to any of your commercial documents to show that you did send it pre-Brexit, and we should be able to deal with it on a case-by-case.
And after Brexit,
After
aside from
Brexit,
that, that window, but after that,
Yeah.
is it typical in a tariffed trading environment what happens when you send return goods?
Yeah, it happens all the time, so there is a set procedure for dealing with that. And it would be tariff-free then at that stage. It's those tricky ones around the Brexit date that where you'd be saying, be a bit more cautious.
So it should be tariff-free,
Yeah.
but there would be certain procedures or protocols to
Exactly.
follow to make sure that
Followed, yeah.
that is the case, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, we have one here. This gentleman.
Yeah, I have a question. If you're dealing with a supplier who's based in the UK and they're importing raw material from Europe and then dressing it up and then selling it to us, is there the likelihood of a double tariff there that they may wish to pass on to ourselves as a final customer if our terms are X works?
Yeah, some of those processes are what Ronan was referring to, inward and outward processing, so depending on the supply chain. So really quickly, if in that scenario, what the UK company would be looking at is inward processing potentially, so that allows you to bring in goods from outside. In an EU perspective, if you were an Irish company bringing goods in from the UK, you can bring it in. You don't pay any tariffs or duties. You do your manufacturing and you send it back out, so you never pay tariffs or duties within the EU. So the UK are going to adopt something similar. And then the other one is the reverse of that. If you're sending something to the UK, so this would be the scenario you're talking about, the EU company would have to be applying for outward processing. So that's where you send EU product to a third country to undergo some sort of manufacturing. And when it comes back in, then the tariff is calculated on the value that has been added while it underwent that process. And so just as an example, I send out raw material valued at €10. It's manufactured, it becomes whatever it becomes, and the value of that coming back in is €15. Your tariff is charged on the €5. Or if it's more beneficial to you, you can choose to have it on the original price. But again, it depends on the company and it depends on the product. So there are things that you need to go looking at now, and you do need to be authorised to do all of these things. So look at the website, get information, and start making the steps now.
And I presume as well that there are different levels of processes. So for example, we heard about Diageo sending Guinness from the south to the
Right.
north,
Yeah.
which isn't in a raw material state,
Yeah.
it's partially processed,
Yeah.
but then it gets further processed
Yeah.
and it gets complicated, or milk heading north or south
Yeah.
for processing.
That's it, and it gets more complicated, but I'd just be really wary of the two products you picked are considered to be SPS type products. It's sanitary and phytosanitary, so they're food-based products. So the rules around that become even stricter. And the other thing, just to note on any of those inward or outward processing, so say in the milk, I send it up to the north for something, it comes back, that's fine, that's one process. But what we hear is that it crosses backwards and forwards multiple times. And then if that happens, then any of the benefits are gone, you can only do one process.
Okay. Sorry, Jonathan, you wanted to say?
Sorry, please.
Just another point, just in relation to the gentleman's question, I suppose. Well, you know, there are rules around when the product becomes a UK product or whether it is still an EU product, and even in terms of which tariffs might apply or quotas might apply, you know, so it can be a bit complicated.
I presume on that the UK company perhaps that's importing it from the EU as a raw material, they would have to sort that out on their end, wouldn't they, with the UK customs?
And it's a brilliant example of what you were asking about, I think, as well, in terms of, like, we don't want to get ourselves in the job of educating the UK companies on what they should be doing, but if it's important for your supply chain, I think we have to do that. So we have to go and engage with them. We have a whole group of companies at the minute who are applying and being processed in terms of this inward processing, so they don't have to pay the tariffs on it. But we have to engage with those UK suppliers. I guarantee they don't know about. Sorry, I can't guarantee. I really am sure that that they don't maybe know about this inward processing? And the time frame, how long does inward processing take?
Any of the authorisations, we can, the time limit for ourselves is 120 days, which is 4 months. In theory, again, it comes back to, you know, how prepared are you before you put in your application? Once we assess your application, have you your guarantee in place? Have you spoken to a financial institution to do that? Are your premises up to scratch? These kind of considerations. So I couldn't give a one-size-fits-all answer there again. If everything's ready to go, it could be done in a matter of days. But if there's issues, it could take up to 120 days.
The other thing, just one quick one. I know back in February, March, when we were working with companies in Northern Ireland, it was taking 8 to 9 months, you know, so it's likely that this will ramp up, you know, getting closer, right?
Okay, more cause for concern. Yes, this gentleman here, we get a mic to you.
Thank you very much, and indeed, thank you for excellent presentations this morning. And indeed, I'm very impressed with the state of preparedness and the work that's going on behind the scenes. But just my question would be to the panel is, the work is done, there's a no-deal Brexit, we have a fallout come the last day of October. What is your understanding of the physical structures in place for the inspection, etc., of what has to be done and what needs to be done? We only live a short distance here from the border. Certainly we welcome Minister Humphreys and again re-echoing that we will not have a hard border. But what's your understanding of the inspection, various processes need to be put in place following that? Thank you.
I suspect that that is probably precisely the very point that many people won't be able to answer. Celine, if you want to say something on it, I'm not sure if you can.
No, I mean, we've talked about all the customs formalities, all the different controls and checks that are required. How do you do that without infrastructure on a border? It becomes extremely difficult. But they're the kind of difficult conversations that the Minister referred to. What I can say is we absolutely have no plans in place for infrastructure at the border. I think if anyone produced that sort of plan, we'd all be taken out and given our P45, so that's not happening. But what I would say is all of the procedures, and no hard border doesn't mean no customs formalities. How we do it, very difficult, and nobody knows at this point in time. But if you have thought of all of these things that we've covered today and are ready to go in any of these processes, then you'll be fairly well covered. The where of any of these things will just be kind of incidental.
From an export perspective, into Northern Ireland, the UK government announced earlier in the year that there wouldn't be any tariffs or any checks applying. You know, I think in terms of infrastructure, at the ports, certainly there's been a lot of work done at Dublin Port. Probably not as much on the UK side. You know.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other questions? At the very back of the room there, yeah.
Question related to products, say that were tested in the UK, say regarding fire, come Brexit Day, are those test standards invalid?
Adrienne, or did you catch that? If you have products coming in from the UK and they have been tested, fire safety tested, once Brexit happens, are those tests and those standards and that certification no longer valid?
Well, I think if they've already been tested, they've more than likely been tested to a standard that's been recognised and accepted within the European market at the moment. So if they've already come onto the market, there's no reason to believe that the standards wouldn't be becoming valid. Going forward, I think, you know, as Michael has said, there is going to be a period of mutual acceptance of standards, I think, across the EU and across between the UK and the EU. So at the moment, there will be a period of time, I think, where standards will continue to be accepted.
But if it was certified from a fire safety point of view by a UK accredited body, designated body, is that still valid after Brexit?
I think this is one of the things where you need to read the regulations carefully. There are certain tests which have to be carried out by an EU accredited test house. Those will not be valid from the UK because they're obviously not EU accredited. However, for the vast majority of tests, they just have to be carried out by an accredited, and the UK UCAS, UK Accreditation Service, will still be part of European accreditation. So where it doesn't specify an EU, they will still be accredited more generally, and they will still be valid as a general rule. But I think the best thing is read the regulations carefully and see exactly what it demands.
Okay, is that okay? I'm afraid I'm conscious of the time, and we need to wrap things up. You're all very busy. I wanted to say thank you very much to all of the panelists. I also wanted to say to you that, you know, before we finish up, make sure that you have an opportunity to go and visit the stands.